Business is booming, but you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think unpaid bills were just part of it. Ugh. But batch payments? Wow. Automated accounts payable? Even better. All in one place. That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No bills in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search Xero for your free trial. Conditions apply.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Are your ad campaigns lighting up the dashboard, but not the pipeline? That's bullspend, and marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
My boss asked for results, so I opened my dashboard for the only positive-sounding metric I had: impressions.
Cut the bull spend. See revenue, not just reach. LinkedIn delivers the highest return on ad spend of major ad networks. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tech Magic, the podcast where we talk about technology, innovation, and everything happening in the tech space. I am your co-host, Cathy Hackl, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Lee Kebler. Lee, what's up?
Oh, my goodness. I'm so exhausted by technology news of 2025. So much so that I think DeepSeek might be as well, but we'll get to that. Okay. Do you remember 3 months ago, we actually had an episode where not a lot of technology news came out, and we kind of had a hard time scraping together, a list of news stories that episode. And it is just be careful what you wish for.
Oh my gosh, I know.
And I spent the weekend doing my other thing, which was in a recording studio, recording this jazz project that I'm working on. And so I missed a lot. And then I tried to catch up today, and it was just fire hose. And how are you doing?
Whew, trying to keep up. Trying to keep up. Yeah, it's been a lot. It's been a lot in tech news. And oh my gosh. I mean, I will say I was able to publish an article that I've been working on for a very long time that you had seen before.
Yes.
The first time I ever worked on this article was in 2021. That's a long time. But I never saw the moment. It's a long time. It's not that it took me that long. It's just I started putting my thoughts down in 2021, and I finally published it today after everything that's happening with AI, Metaverse, XR, everything that's happening. I thought this is the perfect moment to write it. And the premise for it, as you know, is really American XR, the concept that the US leads in XR in spatial technology, and we should strive to keep it that way. I feel like we should double down on where we lead, not try to play catch up, and understand specifically that where some of these models are going to eventually go is into new architectures and new models that will need real world data that is updatable in real time. And that is going to come in the form of some type of spatial and XR hardware. So I wrote an article about competitiveness in AI and XR and really think they're longer term about how I think the US specifically should look at investments in that future of technology. And I feel like we're in this moment of just catch up and trying to catch up. And we're thinking only large language models. I'm trying to get people to think a little bit further out and really think about where does the United States currently lead? And I totally believe it is in that spatial computing, XR, software, hardware world where we truly lead. So I'm very excited. I published it, getting great feedback on LinkedIn, great comments. Most people are really, really supportive of the article and truly see the moment, right? It's an opportunity. You even posted about it. What was your reaction when you read it?
Well, I mean, it is one of those things where there's a lot of questions what's happening in technology, especially today, and a lot of confusion. And it boils down to, yes, AI is a major part that we have to consider. The technology itself is a major part we have to consider. But what I said was when the industry zigs, you kind of have to zag. And so while all of these areas are getting fought for, there's a hardware play that's completely missing. And that's the zag to everything that's currently happening right now. It's okay, this is all great, but where does the experience live? Where do the eyes go? What is the hardware move? Now, I will be very blunt and honest and say there's questions about that we don't have answers to. If, I'm going to go back in time a little bit. Part of how I got started in this industry was actually at the beginning. Again, we've always sworn not to be political. This is not a political statement. But when I got into the VR space professionally, it was because of tariffs. I went in the first Trump administration very early on. The dude likes tariffs. And so he put tariffs on American steel. Yeah. And when that happened, that meant a lot of steel manufacturing couldn't prototype in steel anymore because it was no longer cost effective. And that was where I found a really good footing for virtual reality. Politics aside, it was this approach to how do you prototype using VR hardware when you can no longer afford to waste the natural materials? History repeats itself, and we're right back in that, right? And so as we're looking at new tariffs that can affect everything from lumber to other building materials to, semiconductors and
guacamole, but
all of this is now up for conversation. There is this conversation that's not currently happening that this article proves, and that is where do you zag? Where do these technologies actually start providing a solution because we can no longer do X, Y, or Z? Back in the first administration, it was because of steel couldn't prototype anymore. There are new hurdles that need to be overcome now. Where do we find those solutions? And that is something that, by and large, America's always been really good at. And when I say America, I mean people like myself who build things in garages, not people who run massive mega corporations with billions of dollars, because they're having a hard time right now. But for those who are still tinkering in the garage going, oh, I think I have an idea. This is a really unique opportunity, not only to go forward with it, but to experiment with new hardware. And hopefully, per your suggestion in your article, those big companies that are scrambling right now can take a step back and say, wait, there is a hardware play and we have the means to do that, because that's not something that people like myself can do. So we'll see. But that's a very long-winded way of
but it's been really interesting to see the feedback. It's almost kind of started to go viral a little bit on LinkedIn. I'm starting to see people comment on it. I will say, for me, it's about the competitive advantage the United States has already and doubling down on that. If we know the future is going to be, whoever owns the hardware is going to own the data. Well, not own the data necessarily, but have access to the data and will own the containers, right? That will have that AI in the physical world. Right. So I think that's really interesting. And I also think there's still a moat. I feel like with large language models, the moats, there's no moats. The moat is so tiny. If you're building on a GPT wrapper, what are the moats here? And I feel like when it comes to certain technology, there's still a moat that is very clear because it's still really hard to create and work on, where you can still have that competitive advantage.
And competition is so important because it does make things better. Let me explain. ChatGPT, last episode, we talked about, oh my gosh, DeepSeek came out of nowhere and blew the doors off of the AI industry. And that's true. It really did. And since then, everyone then regathered, rehuddled, and kind of went through their what the heck do we do moment. Exponentially, ChatGPT is better today than it was a week ago when we recorded our podcast. And that is not because they've been secretly working behind the scenes on this stuff. They were forced to find better solutions. And those better solutions were resting in open source technology because DeepSeek was open source. We all know that they gathered in their war rooms, dissected it, and said, what the heck do we do? Today, because I was recording all weekend and wasn't focused on news, I had to sit down being Monday and go, okay, what news stories are there? So I first went to DeepSeek. I did not first go to ChatGPT. I first went to DeepSeek, and the reason I went to DeepSeek was because it has not only the reasoning functionality, but it has the ability to search. So I started going through trying to say, hey, compile information about these things, nothing older than the last 5 days, because I knew what had happened 5 days prior. And it gave me a bunch of really crazy interesting stories. I said, oh, wow, I didn't know any of this stuff happened. Please provide links. And it said, oh, I can't, as these are all fictional. It's like, fictional? What do you? Fictional? Yeah, it's all fictional.
Let me just hallucinate.
These are all
hallucinate all these tech news.
Yes. This is where it gets creepy. This is all hypothetical to what could happen because I said between last 5 days of January, whatever, to February 3rd. And it said of 2025. And I said, this is hypothetical of what could happen by the year 2025. And I was like, wait, what do you mean? Back up. DeepSeek, what year do you think it is? This is what I ask it. And It goes, October 2023.
Dun, dun, dun.
I said, wait a second, October 2023. And then I asked, who's the president of the United States? He goes, well, as of October of 2023, our current president is Joe Biden. And then I realized it's got a blockade up. It is currently, this could be a bug. This could be...
We're recording on Monday.
We're recording on Monday, February 3rd.
Anything could change.
But as of Monday, February 3rd at 3:17 p.m. West Coast time, DeepSeek cannot see past October of 2023 in its search results. I don't know why. So then I go, well, let's see what I can do with ChatGPT. And I go back and all of a sudden there's a magical search button that was, I swear, that wasn't there yesterday or the day before last time I looked at ChatGPT.
Well, didn't they just launch it? Didn't they just launch that capability?
I missed it. I was in a recording studio.
Yeah, they're launching. I mean, they did Operator last week and then this week they did the research, like the one that does a lot of research.
Yeah, that crap works. It works really well.
Is it better than Perplexity? Because I tend to lean really heavily into Perplexity for my research.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I get all the same Google pings and I have the same Reddit account and like everything else that I get my news through that I filter and I like look for stuff all through the week. It actually listed a news article that broke 33 minutes ago.
That's really good.
I mean, for those who've been following this, AI's never been able to get data that recent and then bring it into a logic-based system and provide it in a way that I can do something with it. Mm-hmm. So it was so strange when I saw this particular article that I thought to myself, this is a hallucination. This didn't happen. So I went and Googled it and was like, oh, no, this is very accurate.
You probably went to that person's LinkedIn.
Yeah.
They actually do this. Interesting.
It was wild how accurate it was. So I grew up in Florida. And in
Florida man. Oh gosh.
In Florida, greyhound racing up until like recently was really big. And I never understood the interest or obsession that people had with greyhound racing. And I really get it now because I feel like I'm like watching a greyhound race between DeepSeek, Perplexity, and ChatGPT. And they're all chasing this like robotic rabbit. And I'm just sitting there with my ticket shaking it in the air.
I'm just eating the popcorn. I'm just literally eating the popcorn. I'm like, okay, let's see what happens.
It is crazy how fast this changed in a matter of a week. Yeah, it's in that article in question, because we are going to cover it, actually has to do with Meta.
Let's talk about this because they had their earnings call last week. Doing really well. I mean, Meta is blowing past expectations from a shareholder perspective. I mean, Meta keeps growing. Regardless of any opinion you might have about some of their changes when it comes to fact checking and stuff. But as a company, shareholders should feel pretty happy, I would say. During the earnings call, they did have some really interesting things they mentioned. I think it was during the earnings call that Zuckerberg mentioned that it's going to be a make or break year for the metaverse. I'm not sure if it was in the earnings call. It was like their all hands or whatever, but it was in one of those two where he mentioned the metaverse being a 2020 this year.
It came, actually, from my understanding, it came from Andrew Bosworth. And
it was Boz that said it?
It was started in a leaked memo, and then they had to like say the quiet part out loud.
And then because I remember it's like 2025 is a make or break year for the metaverse, and that there's going to be improvements to Horizon and these sorts of things. They talked about the Ray-Ban Meta AI glasses selling, I think, over 1 million units. I think that's the number that's been pushed around.
Which is crazy impressive. Like,
great. I mean, great.
It really is.
So that was part of it. They talked about how much money Reality Labs was making, how much it was losing. I mean, expectations for it, those sorts of things.
Yeah, he quite literally said that they either have to prove the metaverse this year or it will be considered, and to quote, a legendary misadventure. Mm-hmm. So we shall see. And I think a big part of my question mark on that statement is, what are you considering the metaverse?
What is the metaverse to them, right?
Because if it's just Horizon...
No.
If that's what they're talking about, then I think it actually might be a legendary misadventure. That software platform is struggling to take. But if it is the grander experience that they have a pretty strong industry hold, then they're doing very well. So it really is kind of parsing words here to be like, what do you mean?
I feel that first of all, if Meta changed their name, right, that's a huge investment. You can't let it necessarily fail.
It's true.
I think if you move away from just thinking this is a 3D virtual space, in a virtual, just in a single virtual headset, and you move into thinking about virtual shared experiences that happen both, yes, in virtual spaces, but will also happen in the physical world, and that expansion of computing into the physical world through spatial computing, through spatial computers, the use of spatial intelligence for world models. That's for me, and I've always said this, you've heard me say this in every stage, for me, the holy grail of the metaverse is when you can actually access that virtual layer in front of you in the physical world and have that full convergence of physical and digital. That is where, in my perspective, Meta has a huge advantage with, what they're doing with their AR, AI glasses and what heads-up displays and the things they're going to bring, but also Orion. Orion, to me, was a big signal of where they're going with this.
Yeah, they do need to continue pushing on where Orion goes. I actually have a different perspective than you. We've always talked about this. My perspective is, it's where your account system, like across multiple applications within these virtual environments, can coexist, right? And share amongst themselves. So the ability to go from one environment to the next seamlessly is, to me, where that like metaverse tipping point. This is what I've always kind of like question marked Horizon about, because Horizon being...
That's a closed metaverse. Like, I feel
it's a closed metaverse, and therefore, is it a metaverse?
Well, yeah, but then to me, it's like, I feel like there's going to be walled gardens and there's going to be open metaverse as well. I think we're going to go and flow in between. Yeah. Sometimes there will be a need to be in a closed walled garden because of X, Y, or Z, right?
Right.
But I do agree with you. I think a part of that metaverse is that concept of going seamlessly between one and the other, whether it's, federated or whether it is some type of decentralized way to go in between each other. That to me is part of it. So, but to me, the holy grail doesn't really come until computing doesn't expand into the physical world. And then we're able to see that virtual layer. And that will happen through some type of wearable, some type of device. And I intentionally did not include the word metaverse in the article because I didn't want that to be something that people would, in the Forbes article I wrote, because I didn't want people to kind of like muddy the waters.
Yeah. Well, and I do think that I might be a little bit, maybe it's my own chagrin here, but I do think that Meta is focusing on this particular topic more so on Horizon because of their leadership moves. The article that we were talking about that like broke recently was their hiring of a TikTok executive. And that whole concept is to lead the relationships and development of like metaverse creators and developers and really try to like boost Horizon Worlds up quite a bit. And that's breaking as of Monday. It'll be probably everyone else will know.
Yeah, the article is from Business Insider. It says Meta hires a former TikTok exec to build relationships with metaverse developers and creators. They should have hired me, but that's okay.
I think you got bigger fish to fry than Horizon World. Like, I'm just going to say it. Like,
I've got a lot of big fish to fry right now, to be honest.
Horizon World is a tough project to energize right now.
Yeah.
It just is. It's not that it's impossible. And I believe in the concept, but structurally, it's really hard to get developers interested in it when you have things like Roblox and Fortnite and even VR chat to a very wide extent. This goes back to competition breeds creativity and necessity. And those pieces of competition, they've yet to kind of like been able to reach that type of general interest. And that's got to be their target. Not saying it's impossible, but it is an uphill battle.
Well, that's why I think if they hire people that are actually creators, I think they can create that connection between the creators are in these spaces because they know what the challenges are, right?
Yeah, but that's difficult. Okay, so I swear this isn't a pivot. Apple TV has done what I have begged for the last 3 years, and Mythic Quest is back.
Oh my God, best show ever. Well, no, Severance too, but anyway.
Mythic Quest is back, and their first episode is legit about how do you hire creators for these type of like metaverse like platform. Oh my gosh. So that's as much as I want to say is like, if you want to understand that argument, go have a laugh and watch episode 1, season 3 of Mythic Quest just dropped. Fantastic.
Oh my gosh. I love that show. I love that. I love Severance, by the way, too. That's, whoa, mind melt. All right. So we do wish Shadi Nair, I think that's how you pronounce the person's name, a lot of luck in that new role. We're here. We'd love to interview that person. But yeah, I have the article. One of the articles they're mentioning is from XR Today. It says Meta invests $100 billion into augmented reality smart glasses, virtual reality headsets, mixed reality Quest metaverse portfolio. They're going to continue reality labs. Yeah. There might be some corrections they might need to do depending on sales, but I'm bullish. I think the whole roadmap, as I understand, is launching some type of AR, AI glasses with Oakley for athletes. I think that's brilliant.
For better or for worse, Meta, from a hardware perspective, when it comes to the VR, AR playing field, they're king. And they really, as of today, they don't have a whole lot of functional competition, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not competing with Apple Vision Pro. Apple's trying to figure out what to do about Apple Vision Pro. We have a story about that coming up.
We have a story about that. Mm-hmm.
They're absolutely not going to be competing with Pico anytime soon because ByteDance is now distracted with everything else. Pico, however you pronounce it. Like that's not hitting the US market. So as it comes to the Western market, Meta owns it right now. And there is very little competition nipping at their heels. And good on them for still, even without having that competition, they're still making very progressive hardware.
Mm-hmm.
Their hardware progression has been fantastic. Their pricing has been incredibly aggressive. So all of that tells me like they got to keep pushing with the hardware play on this. And they're talking about, and I have been incredibly vocal about this, maybe they get it right this time. They are looking at a Quest Pro 2, that's not the actual name, but something that is more prosumer. So unless Samsung and Google's partnership, which could come flying out of left field and swoop up a good user base, they're going to be sitting comfortably for 2025, probably 2026 on just their hardware play.
But, and okay, I'll talk about some competition coming down the line, right? But I will say, at least when it comes to Meta, the Super Bowl, which is coming up, you know, the episode drops on Wednesday, Super Bowl is on Sunday. There's several commercials that you'll see around the AI glasses, the Ray-Ban AI glasses that they have that include Chris Pratt, Chris Hemsworth, and Kris Jenner as well. So a lot of Chris's.
All the Chris's just got on a bus to go make some commercials.
Using these AI glasses. So I think that'll be really interesting. I think we'll see a lot of that, a spike in interest when it comes to these devices, right? So very excited to look at that. I would also say, which I think is interesting related to the Super Bowl. I mean, obviously, I'm based in Washington, D.C., so I wish the Commanders were playing, but the Eagles are there.
It is what it is.
But Jaden Daniels, rookie quarterback, star quarterback of the Commanders, he actually has been training in virtual reality for years, ever since he was in Louisiana. I think it was LSU. He's been training in virtual reality. That has really made him one of the stars. But he actually uses a VR headset that operates at 1.75 times the normal speed.
Right.
And that has made him move more than 20 times faster in VR. So he does the plays in VR and he has gotten a lot faster. And like his game has gotten to the next level thanks to virtual reality. As I believe when he did the contract with the Commanders, VR training was part of his contract.
Yeah.
Because to him, it was so important. So that link between immersive training, sports, whether it's AR, we're used to augmenting reality, seeing the lines when we're watching the Super Bowl or any football game.
Yeah.
Right? Or even any sports, really. We're used to seeing those lines that are not there when you're in the actual physical world.
Right.
So that, but also looking at VR and the training that is happening in these spaces and how it's making better players. So very relevant.
Oh, yeah. The VR training aspect, which has been a conversation all going back to the dawn of virtual reality in the 90s, really. I mean, VR training kind of was its birthplace in NASA to kind of start off on it's a simulation device. It's always been a simulation device. So to see it finally adapt and be used in these areas is a big deal. My bigger question is like, okay, if you're going to start cozying up to doing advertisement for the NFL and for the Super Bowl, the big elephant in the room is, great, when can you watch the Super Bowl in VR? Where,
yeah.
And this goes back to it, and I'm speaking from experience here because of my work with the Olympics in VR. It goes back to, when do the rights holding broadcasters start saying, you know what, we have an opportunity to find another broadcasting platform? Because VR, from a hardware perspective, has been trying to bring sports more relatively into the VR space and has had some success doing it. The Olympics being one of them. A lot of football for my European and other global friends has had a good play into the VR space. But I think that especially when you start talking to people who are on the more prosumer or Apple Vision Pro side of things that are utilizing their headset for media consumption, when do we get that type of footage back in? And the answer is almost all of these stadiums are already wired for it because they've been experimenting with it for a decade. It really boils down to who's going to be the first to secure broadcasting rights and actually turn the switch to get it into the headsets.
Let's see what happens. I mean, maybe Super Bowl 2026.
Maybe.
We'll have to see. But I'm very excited to see that. I think from a competition standpoint, because I do want to bring this up. Yeah, I think Meta doesn't have big competition, but competition's coming. It's on the heels.
Yeah,
I feel that Google's acquisition and some of HTC Vive's engineer team is a big signal, right? Of competition's coming. I mean, people are going to start doubling down on new hardware, on new devices. Even OpenAI has, I think they were partnering with Johnny Ive to create some type of hardware. They're looking at the hardware play, right? So there will be competition, whether it's only glasses. I'm not sure. I think we're going to see different things. But yeah.
I mean, and that competition is going to sway based on, it goes back to like my earlier conversation about tariffs, is like if some of these tariffs do go through, then all of a sudden chip manufacturing has a lot of questions it has to fix. And if it can't fix it, then hardware is either going to get more expensive or production has to shift. Those are just the realities. And I don't know what the market can bear from a hardware cost perspective. And that is a big part because Meta has undercut the cost of VR headsets and wearable headsets so diligently. I mean, really, you and I were talking about it. Even the Meta Ray-Bans are not that much more expensive than just Ray-Bans.
The regular Ray-Bans, yeah.
So there's some type of market cut here happening or deal struck here. So they know there's been a significant amount of study put in place of what the market will financially bear, and they're hitting that target very well. And it could really shift in major directions just with tiny little increases in technology costs.
I think Oakley in sports, I mean, if you partner with the right people and you hit that market where it should be, I don't know. It's very powerful. I'm really excited to see kind of what happens in that sense. Even when I was in the Middle East in Dubai, there were the conversations and the talks that they're going to start selling the Meta Ray-Ban sunglasses there as well, right? So they're going to be, I mean, that's a pretty huge luxury market. I think that's exciting. I'm actually heading back to the Middle East on Friday. I'm going to Riyadh for Leap, which is their big tech event. I'm speaking at Leap and then Leap Fest. And I'm doing a talk. One of the talks is on the multimodal metropolis. So moving from just smart connected cities to truly cities that are alive, that where AI and data and everything kind of comes together. So really looking forward to that. And then doing a talk on all the new trends that are coming. And this is funny. One of the talks is inspired by the moniker that was given to me recently, which you and I have talked about, which I'm like, whatever, if people want to give me names, I'll take them. The CEO of Napster, my friend John V, during CES called me the godmother of the future. I mean, that's pretty lofty, but hey, I'll take it. And then when I was in Dubai, there was also like the godmother of the future. So I'm one of the godmothers of the future. I'm not the only one.
Do I inherit like co-host of the future? Is that,
co-host of the future?
Do I get that? Like
curators of the future. I think we're curators of the news of the future. So yes, run with it, Lee. But yeah, like I'm really doubling down on that, on expanding beyond just like being seen as a metaverse person to like, no, I do work across so many verticals. I have my fingers in so many pies that people don't even realize. So yeah, like
I mean, and that's kind of how you and I started working together. You had put together an AR focused event in New York back in 2016.
Mixed Reality Marketing Summit. That's the long.
And it was fantastic. It was really like, it was the conversation no one was having at that time. Even down to, I mean, I was having conversations. This is not a dig at AWE. I love you guys.
No.
This is not that. But we were having conversations because I think it was a smaller, more curated summit of people. We were having
highly curated.
Yes.
Highly curated, smaller in size. And then one thing that I focused on, Lee, and one of the reasons that you came to that and I asked you to speak was because I was trying to find such, like, I didn't want the usual suspects. I wanted people for so many different verticals so that the conversation was valuable. Not just everyone speaking about the same thing, but how do we have all these different perspectives on, at that point, it was mixed reality was the term that was being used, right? So yeah, I mean, it was a great event. I wish I could bring it back. I mean, if anyone's listening and wants to like help me sponsor and bring it back. Help you bring it back.
It was a fantastic event.
Yeah.
And I'll always remember the last question that was asked to me on my panel was, and I don't know if it was you who asked it or if it was a different, I think you asked it.
Maybe?
Yeah. And you said, so who do you think is the next big company? And I was building my own project at the time. And I said, I'd love to tell you that it's my project, but chances are it won't work because so many projects, it just doesn't work like that. But the truth was, I don't think that company exists today. Because it was like, in the next 10 years, who do you think is the next big company? I said, I don't think that company exists today.
Yeah.
And we're kicking off this show 10 years later, talking about companies that literally did not exist.
Yeah.
And so I guess I was right.
You were right. No, I should come back to the video. I'm going to have the receipts. You should play the audio next time.
I just didn't think it was. It's like whatever the next big true success is wasn't going to come from the big already existing companies. It was going to be forced. And that's going to be true 10 years from now.
We got OpenAI.
Right. That's exactly what I mean.
Was OpenAI already in Sam Altman's head that long ago? I don't know.
No. No. Absolutely not. 10 years ago? No.
Yeah. All right. Well, now let's go on break and we'll be right back.
Are your ad campaigns lighting up the dashboard, but not the pipeline? That's bullspend, and marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
My boss asked for results, so I opened my dashboard for the only positive-sounding metric I had: impressions.
Cut the bull spend. See revenue, not just reach. LinkedIn delivers the highest return on ad spend of major ad networks. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
This message is brought to you by Warner Brothers Discovery Advertising. And this is more than an ad. This is an invitation to be part of the stories the world can't stop watching, to connect with moments that dominate the conversation, to participate in culture, not just advertise around it. With the most sought-after IP, passionate audiences, and an advanced AI-powered foundation, WBD advertising transforms attention into influence and impressions into outcomes. This is innovation. This is impact. This is opportunity. This is Warner Brothers Discovery Advertising. Visit advertising.wbd.com to learn more.
Business is booming, but you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think unpaid bills were just part of it. Ugh. But batch payments? Wow. Automated accounts payable? Even better. All in one place. That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No bills in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search XERO for your free trial. Conditions apply. Business is booming, but you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think spreadsheets were just part of it. Ugh. But real-time cash flow? Wow. Invoices that chase themselves? Even better. Books that automate? That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No spreadsheet in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search XERO for your free trial. Conditions apply.
All right, Lee, we're back from break. Definitely want to talk a little bit about what's going on, or at least some of the news that are coming out of Apple. We don't know, but this is just something that was published in The Verge. And I think it was also Mark Gurman from Bloomberg who's talking about Apple abandoning their AR glasses project as well. So it's supposedly codenamed N107 and will continue to focus on its Vision Pro ecosystem, etc. I mean, I'm not sure whether this is true or not. Sadly, I think that's a bad move if they're not focusing on AR glasses. I mean, I think they should double down. I think they should focus on the future of hardware. I think they have a lead in a lot of those things. I don't think this is like the car situation. So that being said, well, I want your take on that. And then I'll mention something that they just did that I found super interesting that Apple just did.
Well, all of this is weird speculation because part of the conversation is saying, okay, they're going to move away from this and they're going to go back and kind of revisit the conversation with Apple Vision Pro. Let's just break it down like this. Apple is not in a position to make a piece of hardware that can get the mass adoption of the iPhone today. They can continue to make the iPhone because they've corralled a huge user base into an ecosystem that they must have. And it's very hard to escape that ecosystem. And it is just easier to play along. But we have seen the lines for the iPhone no longer wrap around the building. Yeah. And people do not upgrade year after year. So you're seeing more gradual leaps in iPhone users of, I'm going to go from an iPhone 13 to an iPhone 16, as opposed to, I'm on the iPhone 15 and I want that new on the iPhone 16. Well, we don't see that today. Their computers have an equally difficult situation, but they've always kind of been like a 5-year turnaround on their computers. So how do you take a piece of hardware as expensive and complex to build as the Apple Vision Pro or glasses like the N107 and convince people that they've got to drop. I'm not saying that N107 or whatever their code name is going to be this much. I don't know. But we know it's probably going to be over $1,000 because they don't make anything for less than $1,000.
We already most of us that have Pro Maxes and stuff pay over $1,000 for your phone.
Totally. And that's their expectation. But is there a marketplace to provide that? Whereas you've got Meta, who has dominated the situation. They don't really sell anything that's over $500. Anything. They tried to sell the Quest 2 Pro at $1,200 and the market told them that was too expensive. So like Meta doesn't actually sell a piece of hardware to the mass population that's over $500. It doesn't exist. And Apple does not have a way to make anything other than like maybe their keyboard and mouse that is less than $1,000. So they've got a profit margin issue or something where like, I just don't think they can do it until they can come up with something that like legitimizes the price discrepancy. And luxury isn't going to do it anymore. And they don't have an ecosystem that proves that hardware currently.
See, the thing is, I wouldn't bet against Apple. I'd never do. Like, as you know, I think that even if they cancel things, I think they're still going to have people working on whatever comes next.
Yeah. I was in that camp of don't bet against Apple until the Apple Vision Pro.
Ooh,
and the Apple Vision Pro missed the mark on so many things that it made me question how they designed it. And if I'm sitting here questioning how Apple designed something, the only thing that they want to be known for doing.
Design. Yes, what they're doing really well.
It makes me question, it makes me bet against Apple. Like, the show has the receipts. Go back to when we were talking about the AVP. I was saying something completely different. I was with you. Don't bet against Apple.
Has it proven to be the success? I mean, the success that we thought maybe was going to be? No. I will say there is some positive news in the AVP world.
Sure.
Around healthcare and medical. There's actually an article on Popular Science that says the future of the Apple Vision Pro is in medicine. 1 year after its release, the headset is springing up in operating rooms and doctors' offices. Very much true. And then at the end of January, Sharp Healthcare hosted the inaugural Spatial Computing Healthcare Summit. It started to pop up in ORs. I definitely see how for healthcare, a $3,500 device that allows you to have maybe more precision or do something better is not that expensive, right?
Right.
When you're talking about, robots for operations that cost
even if you go back to like before the break when you were talking about training in VR, that cost is negligible when you're talking about an NFL player, right? Like there are professional enterprise solutions that are necessary here, but the AVP really wasn't marketed as an enterprise solution for anything. And I totally understand where it is the most processing powerful all-in-one VR headset. I know they don't want me to call it a VR headset. It's a VR headset.
It's a spatial computer.
Whatever. It's a duck. So if it quacks, it's a duck, okay? It's a duck.
All right. Potato, but okay.
Sorry, Tim. But I do think that those things are out there and they can do things that the Meta headset can't do. But I'm simply looking at a mass adoption piece. When you start talking about glasses, can Apple hit the right market that competes with, because they're no longer competing with Meta at that point, they're competing with Ray-Ban. And so if they already have Ray-Ban, who are you going to, you know what I mean? Like to make that user connective tissue to a brand that already makes sense. There's a lot that's impressive, but it does make me question. I don't know.
Well, I think, the future of spatial goes through not just the AVP, but also through AirPods with cameras. I don't know.
Apple's just in a weird situation. Everything that they put out right now has to be like caveated. This is true.
Well, yeah, even Apple Intelligence, I'm not like...
Apple Intelligence has scaled back since its launch. I've noticed this.
Summaries.
Yeah. So I'm like, you and I are both writers. We write constantly. And so one of the things I was excited about Apple Intelligence was proofreading, just making sure my grammar was correct. I don't want you to hallucinate. I don't want you to change anything in what I'm writing. I just need you to tell me if I actually understand what to do with the semicolon. And so I used Apple Intelligence to do my proofreading for my grammar. And I realized I was writing last week, it no longer can do a full page of text. You have to do it a paragraph at a time. And that was not a situation. That came in an update. They've had to scale things back. They're fine tuning. They're recognizing these things. And it just comes with this idea that everything Apple has put out, even the iPhone 16, where they launched it and every advertisement said, you're going to get the iPhone 16 because you want Apple Intelligence, asterisk, currently not available on the iPhone 16. Apple's got to do something about that asterisk because everything they're putting out has a caveat right now. It feels weird. It feels real weird. And I'm not an Apple hater. I'm an Apple user. My main computer in every studio I work in is an Apple device. But it is one of those things where it's getting dicey. It's strange. I don't know what they're going to do.
A trip down memory lane for anyone watching the video. I don't know if you can see that, but that's a picture of me February 2nd of last year at the Fashion Center at Pentagon City. Was one of the first people in DC to get a Vision Pro.
Yeah.
Crazy. I mean, I had already demoed it, obviously, because I'd done some work as a developer and I had gone to New York to do like...
And it's an impressive device.
It is, sadly. But yeah, like now I think I'm like a little nostalgic that was a year ago. And I had so much hope. I mean, I'm still a glass half full kind of gal, right?
Right.
But I remember standing in line and there was a young kid, like a young boy. He was probably less than 10 years old and he was getting his Vision Pro as well. There was a service member, like an army guy behind me as well that was getting it for gaming. And I'm like, wonder where it is right now. Because mine is, I have two. One's right here. And yeah, one I use sometimes. But there is a nostalgia. There is a bit of nostalgia in my perspective on, I wish this could have gone so much better.
And I honestly think that it could have. This comes down to a failure of design because there's nothing component-wise, there's nothing wrong with it. But there was a level of, and I don't have another way of describing this, so I'm sorry. I know that I have Apple fans who listen to the show and they're going to shake their fist at me. Get over it.
Yeah, well, not. Yeah.
But there's a arrogance of design choices on the Apple Vision Pro of like, we're going to use premium materials of metal and glass.
Eyesight.
It doesn't work. It makes me so upset when I see, and that's what I mean, is like, there's a reason why you don't make your headsets out of metal and glass, because that stuff is heavy and you have neck constraints. There is an argument for the top strap, which they did try to provide one, but they didn't provide that top strap option with the comfortable back head strap. Yeah. Why? So their eyesight.
Yeah.
That should have never left the drawing board. And so there is this like arrogance of design in that particular headset that I think is going to be studied by design classes in the future of where did
business classes too.
Where did go wrong? Well, because hardware-wise, it's amazing.
I believe that a future version can steer the ship, and I still believe that some type of new devices are the ones that are going to lead us into whatever replacement.
I do too.
Right?
I do too.
Was this it? No, but we never thought it was going to be necessarily it. We just thought it was going to go better.
Oh, well, and we've always said that. This will be the worst one they ever made.
Yeah.
But we'll see what the future holds.
I'm nostalgic about it. Now that I think it's been a year. Like, yowzers. Yeah. Yowzers. So we do have a guest interview today. So before we go to the guest interview, Lee, any other news you want us to tackle?
One piece of news that I'm super hyped about because I always talk about Nintendo. I am that guy. I get it. Nintendo Switch 2, super excited about. But this is less about Nintendo and the Switch 2 and more about Xbox. So the CEO, Microsoft Gaming, confirmed in a really recent podcast that Xbox titles are actually expected to come to the Nintendo Switch 2. This could mean everything from like Halo to Flight Simulator. No one really knows, but all of those exclusive titles are looking at like where else can they live, which is kind of telling on a
Flight Simulator and the Switch. I mean, yeah.
You want to see Flight Simulator, you should see it in VR.
Yeah, that's like a Switch. Just I don't know.
I don't know. It's fun. It's a fun idea.
It's the experience of the simulation, but okay.
It could be something else, but like that's what I mean. Is those are two very different things when you start comparing like Halo to like Flight Simulator.
And the Switch Flight Simulator
to cover.
I don't know about that one.
But Microsoft Games saying, you know what, Nintendo, you did it right. Let's see where we can start collaborating, putting some of our content so we can get it to the players. It's a big deal.
Well, and then our friend Matthew Ball actually put out some amazing research on the state of gaming and where people are playing, whether it's mobile or console, across different devices. Highly recommend you look at that. So for anyone interested in the gaming space, his report was fantastic from Matthew Ball. But yeah, I think, Lee, do we need to rename this podcast instead of Tech Magic the Nintendo Podcast?
No. I had one article today. I held back. I held back. I did.
You held back. Well, let me tell you about our guest. We have my friend Jeff Barrett, who's the chief evangelist at the Shorty Awards. When I came back from Dubai for the 1 Billion Followers Summit, I am a creator myself. You are a creator yourself. I am really doubling down mentally and thinking through the creator economy. What does that really mean? What are the dynamics of it? Like geographically speaking, where are the pockets of growth for creator economy? What does it truly mean to be a creator that actually maybe makes money out of their content, or their content is the one that leads to business for them as creators ourselves? So I was able to kind of reach out to Jeff and talk to Jeff, who's a dear friend. We both met as creators where Adobe had invited us to an event as creators, and talk to him about the creator economy, the future of the Shorty Awards, where short form video is going. So let's listen to the interview. All right, everyone. Today's guest is my dear friend who I've known for many years, Jeff Barrett, the chief evangelist at the Shorty Awards. Jeff, welcome to Tech Magic.
Hey, howdy, hi. Happy to be here.
Hello. I'm excited you're here because we've been chatting forever, and I'm just glad to have you on the pod finally. And I know you're a listener as well. You've listened to several of our episodes, so welcome.
It's good to be in the interview seat, too. I try and be a really good listener when I'm hosting mine, and I don't have to do that this time. I can just talk.
You just get to talk in this one. I get to ask the questions, which I love.
Yes, hot seat, lightning round. Let's go.
I know. Let's do this. So I want folks to hear about the Shorty Awards. I think a lot of people listening to this pod probably know the Shorty Awards, but we do have a very international audience. We're growing in a lot of different places, and they might have heard of it. They might not know the Shorty Awards. So just give folks kind of like a 101 on what the Shorty Awards are.
Yeah, 17 years in now. I've been involved with the organization now for 10 years. I've won one for Best Business Blogger, which just kind of points to how much this awards show has adapted over time. I think it's always been at the epicenter of the creator economy and whatever that was at the time, but it's platform agnostic, even though there have been platform awards at times, but it's the best in advertising, short form media. We have the Real Form or the Real Time Academy for short form arts and sciences too. So that's kind of our boards who can judge. And really, it's just about honoring the innovation that you see. I think this year we're going to be having a Boulder show that's really talking about people who break the rules and really get out there and do amazing work. But yeah, just the opportunity to really highlight both the stuff that we probably see a lot digitally and maybe some underdogs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited. So I've been a member of the Academy as well. So I've helped judge in the past. And yeah, just the amount of creativity and just innovation. Like, I've always been surprised by some of the creators and some of the brands that are bringing really fresh content to short form.
Absolutely. And sometimes the greatest innovations come from when, you might be restricted or the budget is small or you have something that you have to kind of work around. That's always the most interesting thing. But yeah, generally, I really am always profoundly interested. Like I've judged for a long time too. And now in my role in the last couple of years is kind of trying to enhance the brand and build it out to where it's more year round rather than a couple of events out of the year, because we have our regular show in May and then we have Impact, which is more CSR focused in November. But we're really trying to, interestingly, we've sat at this position where we have the data and what works and what doesn't to really inform and better collaborate with the agency world on the creator economy.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. And in your role as chief evangelist, you've also hosted the show, I believe, right?
I did host the show last year, which was an honor and a privilege. And I don't want to do it every year because also people get sick of me, but it was wonderful to be up there. And I don't have moments, as an extreme extrovert, I don't think I have a lot of moments where I get nervous per se, but I was certainly excitable. And then you have those moments where you're just kind of like walking back to your hotel and you're like, wow, I need to calm down from this.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, no one's going to get tired of you, Jeff. Come on. You're amazing.
I mean, there really is imposter syndrome when you're in a room with that many talented people. I am just a humble person from the Midwest who has figured out a niche in this space and really have tried to kind of be a person who started as, I think the really fun thing is I'm a person who started as a creator and then I got behind the scenes, run my own agency, and now in collaboration with the Shorty Awards, we're embarking on being able to really help the community.
Yeah, and you and I actually met as creators because we were both part of the Adobe Insiders group back in the day. That's kind of how we met as professional, like business thought leaders and creators that were brought in by Adobe. So we're proof of that creator economy and the success you can have in it, right?
You want to know what's really funny about that? I don't know if you know this story or not, but when I started becoming so I was in experiential and doing stuff on YouTube and blowing up things on bridges, not the actual bridge. That's an important distinction.
That's a Mr. Beast kind of thing. Yeah. Okay. You need to have a budget for that. But yeah.
Right. Like a definitely low budget Mr. Beast 15, 20 years ago. But what I was doing in the early 2010s and what led to working with Adobe on that program was I looked at marketing and I saw that there were a lot of self-described titles. And I thought it was there was a lot of the same. And I think anytime you see no matter what it is, you see a lot of things that are similar. You start to go, that's right for parody. And I always have this mind that thinks, okay, this would be good to do a parody. So I created, essentially on Twitter, 2010, 2011, I just created a fake influencer, like thought leader and marketing page. And the whole thing was a parody. And I was giving demotivational advice. Like if everybody was trying to be like a motivational speaker, I was kind of doing the opposite. I was like, yeah, you should sleep until 11. You should do this, like don't hustle. And over time, what happened is like, I would get included in an article here, or I get included in this, and I get included in a list, and then Business Center made me their number one ad executive to follow. And like all these little things happened. And I was like, I'm doing this too well. No one is in on the joke. I have been too subtle. And so then
we're like, this is a parody account, y'all.
Yeah, it was a parody account. And so I was like, well, I guess I should just kind of go along with the joke. But Adobe was great because that was one of the first times that I was allowed to kind of create and implement what I thought was a much better model of working with creators, meaning that you do not treat it like a programmatic ad. You do not treat it like a media buy. And this is endemic in what I do now. And what, we're embarking on the Shorty Awards is that you have to treat it more like you would treat the HR department. And you have to know that there's exponential value in working with somebody the seventh time rather than the first.
Oh, yeah. I agree. I think it'd be really interesting to hear a little bit as you look at the Shorty Awards, been around for a long time, has seen the evolution of content and creators from the Vine days to today. When you think of the current landscape, when you're thinking short form, when you're thinking everything that's happening with AI, with emerging tech, what is your perspective here on the current state of short form and where it might be heading?
I'll take it in a direction. You tell me if you'd like me to elaborate. It's always kind of like we're yes-anding. But I think we're getting to a much more refined space. When I talk to creators, almost every one of them knows so much about the data and the algorithm and what to build for. And we kind of talk about an 80-20 rule, which is that 80% of the content you're kind of building for that audience and the algorithm. And 20% you're just kind of dabbling and throwing different things out there because you don't know if something might lead to a different audience or something else. But just the refinement when it comes to creators and how much they know what works. I've always thought there's a general principle, which is that, I started in MySpace and have evolved all the way to Substack. And there's a lot of twists and turns along the way. Like I was very into Vine. And I think you can tell sometimes if a creator was into Vine because of just how well they're able to quickly do their cuts in 6 seconds, right? I think the biggest things we try and look at is it's more in how you connect to audience rather than it's how you navigate platform. That being said, though, like if you see that there's a shift to LinkedIn allowing more on video, right? Or that TikTok is suddenly making a push towards more than a minute, which is AKA long form, the definition changes. So I think you have to be data informed and you have to be up on those trends. But I think the bigger thing that I'm looking at as a trend in 2025, and you can tell me again if this is answering the question or not, I think it's in elongating the career of the creator. And what I mean by that is that whether that's creating episodic content, so you see that with Chicken Shop Date and Bumble, or in other places like collaborating on more digital series-based content, because I think YouTube is now over 10% of people's viewership on the actual TV. So you're getting a lot more of that content just being delivered exactly that way. So you can see where if you can make the budget work, that's actually a better test market for brands. The other thing is that, and you saw this with Conor McGregor. Look, I looked at this like 4 years ago, I think, and Conor McGregor was the highest paid athlete in the world. And I was like, well, that can't be from fighting the UFC because they notoriously don't pay that much.
Plus, you can't be fighting all the time.
No, it's a limited thing, right? It's finite.
Yes. About every couple of, every month, whenever. But yeah, you can't be like fighting every weekend because that's nuts.
But it was because he sold his stake in Proper Number 12. And so what you're seeing, whether it's with Select Management Group and Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, or you're seeing with Prime, with KSA and, Logan Paul, or with Alex Cooper's on Well, you are going to, Feastables, you're going to see a lot more product that is owned and collaborated with the creator rather than just taking the brand deal. And I think that's the biggest evolution. And then it's incumbent on us to have these relationships in the marketplace because out of our like 400K newsletters, probably half creator, half agency. And so we do know a lot of people that we can kind of try and merge these things and make better collaborations.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's that shift of the creator becoming their own business. Like it's not just they're a creator and then they partner with brands, so they start to own their business. They start to create multiple revenue streams and they own some of the IP, which I think is incredibly important for creators, being able to own your IP. And yeah, like creating that. But then also, I love seeing how the creators have become their own media companies, right? I love that they are the sources of information, right? I think regardless of where people stand politically, the last election definitely showed that podcasters, for example, having a great, immense power, more so to reach a giant audience that maybe media people used to reach on CNBC or MSNBC or whatever. I think it's really interesting to look at that shift in the attention economy side of the creator economy, right? Where is attention going? And how are the creators profiting? But also, where is our attention going? And who are we paying attention to? So very powerful moment for creators in general.
Well, absolutely. And so Avi Gandhi had this post a couple of days ago about trying to, build out and build up the middle class of the creator economy, which I think is super important because generally speaking, like you talk about podcasts or you talk about anything, there are some people who make a ton of money doing this. And then there's the 98% of people who are just kind of dabbling. And so it's very much akin to pro sports or anything else where a select few are really upping that game. Now, that's not to say that you can't have a TikTok shop or other small businesses. Like we've really gotten into some really good creator commerce. But I think that next evolution is being able to attract the audience, approach it in a refined way, and then lead to something else. And you see that whether it's somebody building out a newsletter or capturing in some way that audience to try and take it to the next level, that's the point. But I do think that we are probably going to see the top 100, top 150 creators probably create even more distance because of their ability to create these really strong product brands.
Yeah, billionaires. I mean, yeah. I think it's really interesting to see kind of the progression of all this. I do think there is a huge opportunity for the nano-influencers, for the influencers that maybe don't have these millions, they're not a Kardashian kind of situation, but that have a voice and have a very engaged audience in a specific niche that a brand might want to reach. So they're the right person to go to if they want to truly influence or reach a specific audience. So I think there is great power still in maybe some of the creator economy somewhere in the middle, maybe, but that's definitely what I'm seeing. I mean, my numbers are like, if I compare myself to some other people, like I don't have the giant numbers that someone like my friend Allie K. Miller has. Love her. But I have a really engaged audience on LinkedIn. I have several audiences. But yeah, like I consider myself to be more on that nano side where it's like I have a tech audience, et cetera. It's not giant, but it's very engaged and very much trusting of what I am sharing with them.
Well, and so with every iteration and every evolving part of the space comes an unintended consequence. And so this sets it up perfectly because a lot of these creators are going to creating their own products and doing other things and less on the brand partnership side, right? They're evolving higher. This is going to create a greater emphasis then for the brands to work with mid-scale or, nano-influencers. And what's really interesting about that is that if you create the right incentives and you create the right growth trajectory, then you can actually have a large group of creators involved with your brand and they grow with you. And so you create the opportunities for them to grow and you keep them in the fold. And then like anything, if they keep growing and they grow beyond it, that's okay. But you create a system that makes creators want to grow with you, then that's a system that can bear out over time. And I think that's where we're heading. I think we're heading into a shift in the space, but I'm very excited about it, not just because of where I see there's opportunities along the line, but I think it plays well into my theory that you just don't want to be transactional. You don't want to have the churn philosophy of like, okay, well, we reach out, we gave you a tumbler, and then we'll see you in 18 months. It's more so, how can we benefit from the relationship brand side? And how can the creator benefit from the channels and the prestige and the relationships the brand has? And if you think about that, I mean, that's going to allow any creator a better growth trajectory. Because I would rather be able to bet on myself and grow as a creator and 10x what I'm doing than take a very small payment.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. And even in my personal, the work I do with some brands, I was negotiating a contract recently. And I said, well, if you can't offer me what I want, why don't we negotiate the title or negotiate some of the benefits I'm getting so that there is this added benefit? It's not a monetary one, but there is this added benefit for me to grow. So I completely agree with you. I have a question when it comes to the Shorty Awards. and kind of the expansion globally. I mean, the creator economy is a global thing, right? A big percentage is North America, of course, but there is so much growth happening. I've been spending a lot of time in the Middle East, for example, went to the 1 billion follower summit, loved learning about the influencer and creator economy there, spending a lot of time in South Africa and parts of Africa, which is booming as well. Latin America, I feel like there's so many vibrant places for the creator economy. When you look at the shorties, how do you look at that expansion globally towards the creator economy, which is a kind of a global thing?
Yeah, I mean, that's the same thing too. We're honoring things all over the world, right? So, whether it's in EMEA or like LATAM, everywhere, APAC, like we've had a stronger concentration of things coming from either small agencies in India or divisions of larger agencies in those countries. And what's been really awesome is being able to collaborate and grow that piece in those markets. And I think that's something that we're only going to continue to do further, because we can bring an understanding of certain principles and have certain connections. But I think every time we work with another organization in a different market, we're also learning just as much. We're learning about how to grow, and then we can then translate that back to the other agencies and people that we work with.
Yeah, and I feel like it's really interesting to watch all the way agencies are innovating and creating content that is culturally relevant for their specific audiences and their brands, right?
You have to know those nuances. Absolutely.
You have to have those nuances. And I feel like looking at that broader creator economy and the advertising economy outside of just the US, I think is very powerful.
Well, if you haven't done the listening, and this is true for everything, if you haven't done the listening, then it's kind of like that Steve Buscemi meme with the backwards hat and the skateboard. It's just like, hello, fellow kids. Like, this whole entire industry is based on connection and trust. One of the things we talk about a lot too with partners is that you have to be willing, whether that's 10% or 20% or whatever the case may be, to have some leniency on the brand, on how that's going to be portrayed, because you have to trust that the creator has, their entire livelihood is built into knowing this audience. They're going to know it better than you do. And so you have to give a little there. But then they also have to give a little to kind of bridge that gap as well. So again, it's the trust and the connection. That's why I kind of harp on, again, work with people for 10 times and you will get a really refined, great thing. And then also people will know them for that. It's the same thing. Like, if pick insurance mascot that you want, whether it's Flo or Jake from State Farm or whoever it is, like,
or Geico's Geico, Gecko, whatever.
Right. Limu, Emu, right? You just know that it's the same general principle, that you do this over time, people are going to recognize it for that. And if you do it creatively with the right intent and you can bring that audience with you, people are invested in that creator's success. They're going to follow.
Yeah, 100%. So let's talk about the Shorty Awards coming up this year. Anything fun planned? Anything you can share with folks? Anything they need to know? That's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, mid-May in New York. Not a lot that I can share yet. We're a little early on that. But I will say that having looked at some of the submissions and the work that we have, I think this is going to be a bolder show that's a little bit, kind of think of this show as what Liquid Death would be.
Ooh, I love that. Liquid Death is like one of my favorite go-to brands for anything marketing. They're just fantastic.
I got to talk to Andy Pearson for my podcast. It's no fluke. And it is inspiring to be able to talk, because one of the things he said, he's like, well, in the room, we just try and come up with the dumbest idea possible, and then we try and defend it. And I thought, that's fun. And if you look at the through line of like brands that people love to talk about the most, whether that's Liquid Death right now or Duolingo, it's the empowerment of the team to freely go after the things that they think will work, because they understand what that audience wants.
I absolutely love that. And they always hit the mark. Like, even when you think, how is this going to even like take off? It takes off. Like the diaper selling out for, like Liquid Death. I was just like, wow.
Who doesn't want an 8-foot cooler / casket, right? Who doesn't want a hot fudge sundae sparkling water? Who doesn't want a Miss Fortune cookie? And that's, again, if there's a callback to this entire conversation, it's that a lot of things are always ripe for parody. Although you should probably be more obvious with it than I was.
Yes. lesson from the past. So, Jeff, for folks that want to learn more about the Shorties, connect with you, where do they find you? Where do they find more information on the Shorties?
Go to shortywords.com. You can check out our newsletter that goes out 2 times a week. We might be doing it 3 times a week. Check out that a little bit more. We're working on something cool there. The podcast is called It's No Fluke. I think we're like 130 episodes in.
And I've been on it, I believe. I think I've been on your podcast.
You are. You were one of the early guests before I had like fully refined my interview style. So I feel like it gets much better. Oh, by the way, that is one of the things. It's always a shout out to the people who are like the first 15 guests on the pod, because you don't know quite what you're getting into, but it's really helpful. But yeah, I mean, we've had some really great people from Google and Meta and Liquid Death in the NFL. And we're continuing to really talk with who I think are the most innovative and important people running agencies and creator agencies in the world.
Who's your dream guest?
Dream guest? Oh my goodness. I think that would be kind of akin to a music fan trying to figure out their favorite band in a day. But if I'm thinking about it, it's someone who's antithetical to the space. It's not someone in the space. I like to talk to guests that aren't necessarily in the agency space. And so there's like Joel Mann from Good Charlotte, or Teray, who I had a really good conversation with. I think what I like is to be able to push the envelope of who we talk to and what we talk about, because I never want it to be, and I think that's the same way you feel about your podcast, is you don't want it to be inside the advertiser studio with James Lipton. Like, you want it to be something that kind of catches you off guard, but draws you in some way.
Absolutely. I mean, we've had love coaches. We've had like people that are not in the tech space, but talking about how tech is being used in their specific niche. And those are some of our most listened episodes. It's been when it's something that's not necessarily like within the tech space, but there's a relevant, interesting connection. So I definitely love bringing a different perspective. So totally get what you're saying.
I think we all have layers to us, and we don't necessarily have to. I mean, the algorithm is going to push us into an echo chamber, but it's the learning and the fun that you get out of being outside of the echo chamber that's fun. I'll enjoy it.
100%. Well, Jeff, it's been a pleasure having you.
It went by too fast. But thanks to everybody for listening. Cathy, thank you so much for having me.
You bet. Yeah, so very interesting perspective on the future of the creator economy. I mean, do you yourself consider yourself a creator? I mean, I view you as a creator, but do you like that term or no?
No.
Interesting. So negative.
No, I don't mean that as a negative. Okay.
Okay.
I'll preface it. It was never a goal. Okay. So that was never a goal. I've always considered myself, or I've been told that, oh, you're a creative.
You
right?
are creative, for sure.
And it's a personality trait as opposed to an occupational goal. So as a creative, I wanted to be a musician or a music producer or a tech designer or something along those lines. And I've done all of those things.
Yeah.
And so,
gosh.
And content got created because of that, right? Music or even the technology has been turned into content. I've talked about it here. I'm currently still reeling from a weird bump in Instagram fame over something that shouldn't have happened. And I don't mean that in negative. Don't go looking for like some like crazy drama on my Instagram. Like, I produced a beat.
No, it went viral organically.
It just, organically.
Loved you.
Yeah, there was not any.
Now you have more followers than I do, which I'm still like,
It's, hey, you know what? Go make a Pac-Man beat and video. You can do it too.
I love it.
I don't know. Evidently the algo loves Pac-Man, but I didn't see that as like content creation. But because of that, I've been having to force myself to put that in perspective and where things do arrive, because it is kind of like that is where the economy has gone. As like from a creative perspective, you kind of have to go into the economics of creating content as a creator. A lot of repeating myself there. So I don't want to.
You don't want to.
But it's just part of it.
Influencer. I mean, I know people hate that term, but I do see you as a creator. I think you've always been a creative. But I see you as a creator as well, especially after that whole Pac-Man thing. I was like, you found it. You found your niche. You found what people want to see from you.
And it's continuing to grow, right? I spent the last...
I mean, I follow you on Insta and I love what you're doing. And I think that is really where your audience, what they want to see from you.
Yes.
Right?
My whole Instagram has turned into like my music creation stuff, which it used to just be about me. But like, no, that's what people want to see.
And now you're going to Treefort. You're doing all these sorts of things, right? You're headlining, like that's opening up all these avenues that wouldn't have happened if you hadn't put that on Instagram. They could have.
100%. They could have, and they have in the past, but not as rapidly as it's happened in the last 2 months. It has been a dynamic shift for sure.
So, I mean, very interesting the way it's all kind of developing. I will say, mentioning social media and creators, it's interesting to start to see more and more celebrities going into LinkedIn. Like Snoop Dogg hit it last year. Reese Witherspoon just joined LinkedIn, is being very active. I'm a LinkedIn influencer.
I'm never catching up with your LinkedIn clout.
Yeah.
I just can't.
I love LinkedIn. It's been my favorite. I would not have been as successful in business. I would not have sold my company if it were not for LinkedIn. I'll tell you the truth.
True.
LinkedIn is the one that has really catapulted my career and beyond what I could have imagined.
And LinkedIn is surprisingly a very this isn't the right word for it, but I don't have another word for it. It's kind of like a purist approach to social media where by going to LinkedIn, what you're going to, by and large, what you're going to be faced with. Every once in a while, you get some weird LinkedIn lunatic who goes rogue and starts talking about stuff no one wants to see on LinkedIn. And they get shut down pretty fast.
Yeah.
But LinkedIn's done a really good job of holding the fort of this is where business comes for social media. And I'm impressed. I'm genuinely impressed with LinkedIn from that perspective.
I think it's great. And I think, seeing Reese Witherspoon and everything come, I will say, I do get asked on dates on LinkedIn.
Whoa, that's interesting.
It's very weird. I guess, whatever. Whatever. It's just a very strange world. Not that I'm going on dates with anyone from LinkedIn. But yeah, it's really funny.
I think our LinkedIn DMs are very different.
Well, I get all sorts of business inquiries, but now it's like, hey, funny world. But anyway.
That's hilarious.
So Reese Witherspoon, you might get asked to go out on LinkedIn. But anyway, I think that's the show for today, Lee.
Yes, but before we wrap up, I always love to do the music recommendation. This is more of a testament to broadcast radio than anything, because I was completely unaware of this, but we have a fantastic jazz station here in Portland that still just plays whatever the DJ wants to play at the time, which I don't think a lot of places have anymore. And so this was a discovery just listening to the radio driving around town. So Soul Symphony is an album by a jazz group from the late 60s called The Three Sounds. Album is incredibly vibrant. It showcases the trio's signature of soulful grooves, really interesting blues jazz in there. And I'm talking old bluesy jazz. It's a real soundscape. So if you're looking for something different that can just play in the background, the whole album you can stream on YouTube right now. And it is fantastic, or Spotify or whatever. It is the thing I'm putting on if I'm doing dishes or cleaning the house or whatever, or just making dinner. It's just playing in my background. So check that out. It's called Soul Symphony by The Three Sounds is the artist. What are you going through? I always come back to, what are you reading? What's your suggestion?
Well, I'm reading a book that just came out called Employment is Dead from the Harvard Business Review. It's written by two friends. They actually asked me to blurb the book. It's in the back. So Adam Grant, for example, and myself and some other folks blurbed the book. Really interesting one. So Employment is Dead, highly recommended. You can buy it on Amazon or HBR. And then I do want to give a shout out to my friend Amanda Costco, who used to be a producer on Metaverse Marketing. Her book just went on pre-sale on Amazon. It's called Electric Runway, How Emerging Technologies Are Transforming the $3 trillion fashion industry around the world. You can pre-order it right now. It comes out in September. So
awesome.
Yeah, great stuff all around.
Awesome. We will be back next week. Thanks for tuning into Tech Magic, where we always invite you to come for the tech, stay for the magic. I'm Lee Kebler here with the incredible Cathy Hackl, and special thanks, as always, to Adweek for bringing this show to you. If you'd enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review. Let us know your thoughts. You can reach out to us. We love to connect with you. Obviously, now Cathy is super on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. I'm also on Blue Sky. We're kind of...
It doesn't mean I'm going to date you, okay?
I didn't say
it doesn't mean I'm going to date you, but hey, who knows, right? Just joking.
You can just search for Tech Magic, Cathy Hackl, or me, Lee Kebler, and you will find us on one of your platforms. Until next week, have a good one.
Are your ad campaigns lighting up the dashboard, but not the pipeline? That's bullspend, and marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
My boss asked for results, so I opened my dashboard for the only positive-sounding metric I had: impressions.
Cut the bull spend. See revenue, not just reach. LinkedIn delivers the highest return on ad spend of major ad networks. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Business is booming. But you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think spreadsheets were just part of it. Ugh. But real-time cash flow? Wow. Invoices that chase themselves? Even better. Books that automate? That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No spreadsheet in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search XERO for your free trial. Conditions apply.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.